Hello, my friends, and welcome to Season 5 GitGud Playoffs. We are here in EU region. My name is Bullskunk alongside Moxie, and today we're going to have the Yorkshire Terriers going up against the Shanghai Wagons.
This is actually a grudge match, Bullskunk. These guys, they met in round 7, but Shanghai took it to a 3-1 victory. So if you're the Yorkshire Terriers, well, you're wanting a little bit of a revenge because it was, remember, 3 days after that Genji patch had dropped. We don't know what exactly went down, but we do know that you won't really have had much chance to sort of get accustomed to the meta. And now that it's a couple of weeks after that, you have had that chance. You've managed to figure out your compositions, and you're going to be coming in with a whole new outlook of Overwatch.
And not only that, but the stakes are a lot higher now as we're getting into this double elimination bracket. We are still in a 1-to-3 series here, with the loser choosing the next map. So I'm anxious to get this one started. We'll be starting on Lijiang Tower. And you were talking about the meta. Interesting fact about the meta as we were discussing before we went live here. And I was wondering, why is Supercharger better than the Nano Boost? And you had some interesting thoughts on that.
Yeah, so Superchargers, at the moment, we're in the meta of Ultimate Chicken, right? Where you don't want to be overcommitting before something that's actually going to kill you comes on out. And that's why we're seeing Superchargers coming in with these Genji Blades, because Superchargers on their own are a threat that teams have to deal with, right? You have to sometimes drop the Immortality Field, you have to give up that space, and then the Genji Blade comes through, and all of the cooldowns that you've just burned on a deployable, you don't have to try and shut that Genji down. When you've got the Nano Boost, it comes through at the exact same time as the Blade, which means all of those cooldowns are all directed to shutting down that one player. And if you manage that, then you've already won the fight.
Yeah, getting that Immortality Field, so important. Baiting that out allows the Genji just one less thing to have to worry about, and makes it that much easier just to chop down the opponent.
It looks like we're going to be headed off to Lijiang, Bullskunk, and this is something that has seen just a little bit of an overhaul on how teams approach. Night Market and Garden still play relatively out the same, but Control Center is seeing a whole new lease of life, a whole new lease actually, of the Junkrat. A lot of spam compositions coming in when you go there, but it's not Control Center just yet. It's going to be Night Market. So keep an eye on both of those teams to lock in that Symmetra to go for that drop-down play where you just teleport onto the window. Everyone drops down. You have that massive big old fisticuff of a fight first, and then you get to decide whether or not you get to stick with the sim and have this turret set up, or you have to swap your composition and therefore reset an ultimate bar.
And a Night Market getting that positional advantage seems so important, even more so than other control maps. If you can bunker down in that tiny room and control those entrances, it gives you just such an easy time throughout the rest of the map.
And you'll be able to get that on point a lot faster. And like you said, once you have control of that space, it just becomes a whole lot easier. Yorkshire Terriers, though, they're not running this Symmetra quite yet. What they are running is a very mobile composition, but you've still got links on that Orisa, right? You still have to actually get on point to set that shield up. And while George is going to be there on the Hammond trying to sow a little bit of discourse into Shanghai's backline, it might not be enough because every time you roll in, Eagle's going to be there with those turrets, just completely chipping away your health bar.
But the Shanghai Wagons, they've already got that positional advantage. They're going to have double shield to work through. Yorkshire Terriers going to have to get past this May as well using the Ash and the Echo that they're showing us here. Teleporter set up. Wall already blocking George out. Keeping the Hammond at bay. As both teams just kind of sizing each other up. Now we're going to get George swinging in, trying to build up a little ult charge. But so far both teams just kind of poking and prodding at the start of this fight.
But Shanghai have already got this amplification matrix, and Yorkshire cannot try and intrude through, otherwise they'll be taking the entire brunt of that damage.
That is a very early matrix, and Joey throwing the wind scar right through. It's going to take George down, but the DPS for the Terriers striking right back, takes Mumpy down. Joey goes down. So now half of the Wagons are missing, and Yorkshire Terriers going to push in, clean up, and recap this point.
They just have to deal with this man. Away goes Malin. Yorkshire Terriers, I actually really like this pick from the Zenyatta because you're not going up against a Genji, right? Melon Eagle, they're not going to be trying to harass that backline, instead they're going to be looking for that front line to falter and fail. So if you've got that Zen, you're constantly knowing that you can have that Orb of Disco just contributing in all of those fights, meaning that you're taking 30% extra damage every time you come through. And George is actually being quite good on this hand as well. So good that Shanghai have to force onto this 2cc turret and Tourbillon coming out from both these guys.
We're gonna get an early Ant Matrix to start this fight. Susan taking full advantage. He takes down Cake on the other side, and that's about the most priority kill you could get here, Moxie. Without the immortality field, I fear Shanghai Wagons just need to reset.
Yeah, you can see that they don't want to commit into this, and you know, they might not want to commit into this next fight either because Yorkshire are in control of all of these ultimates right now.
Oh, and here comes the Hammond over the top. Oh, opts to not put the mines down. That could have been deadly, but he does get the immortality field out on first pass. But Eagle and Melon both get in the mix. Melon, well, taking the Butler out of the mix. But Royals Falls could be an early opportunity, but looks like no. Wagon's just going to go ahead and back out and reset here.
Yorkshire holding onto those mines, no doubt, for when Shanghai want to probably go on to this point, because it's very, very hard to move a double shield composition through onto that space when there are just Hammond mines all in your face.
And those mines coming out all over the place right here. Immortality filled out. Ant Matrix out as well from Cake. Cake is going to fall. And Susan's going to use the duplicate to pick the Orisa, try to keep them at bay. And so far, it's a pretty lackluster assault. And the health bars from the Wagons already going down. They can't even make it onto the objective here.
Yorkshire have such a nice crossfire setup as well. You've got that frontline presence, but Royals on the sidelines getting to spam damage in because Eagles and Melon, they're so busy taking up trying to deal with George on this Hammond that they aren't able to turn and deal with the DPS.
Wagons have a host of ultimates to work with, but not a whole lot of time. Mumpy's going to throw down the Gravitic Flux to pick up the opening kill. Joey running onto the point in a desperate move, throws down the Supercharger, and that will help out tons. Mumpy coming through, taking full advantage of that extra damage. And Wagons flipping this thing not a moment too soon here, Moxie.
But this next fight is going to be so tough for these guys to see through, because you've got a Deadeye. Full stop. You've only got a Deadeye. Yorkshire Terriers are going to be coming in with a Bob, with Hammond mines, even pretty soon a Transcendence, and you know what that is? That's a lot of spatial shutdown. If you're Shanghai Wagons, you can't allow Yorkshire Terriers to move on to point. You can see George is already looking for that wraparound, wants to try and come in with these Hammond mines and immediately split the team.
We're going to go and get the Deadeye out. This ends up being a bit of a zoning tool, buying a little bit of room, but no kills from that. Now trying to put the pressure down. Eagle with a nice shot takes George down, but Mompy goes down as well. In fact, both tanks missing here for the Shanghai Wagons, and that's going to be the cue to go here for the Yorkshire Terriers. Moving in, cleaning up Royals, finding a host of kills in that endeavor. Flipping this point, Yorkshire Terriers looking to take an early 1-0 lead. Just a little bit of cleanup left to do.
Even if Wagons are able to get this contest keeping on through, E-Series is going to have that Transcendence that's just going to keep all of the side of Terriers healed up, nice, snug, and safe. Doing
a good job of tapping and passing the baton around. Who's going to continue the stall, but it's not all that just stalling the time. Is you got to do more than that. Shanghai Wagons need to find the kills, and they are not doing it. Yorkshire Terriers, the ones lighting up the feed, and they will indeed take an early 1-0 on Lijiang.
So at the moment, a lot of focus on Overwatch, sometimes, most of the time actually, before the meta that we see today, came onto what's happening in the fight that you're currently in. After the recent meta has sort of shifted and we've seen the Genji return and it becomes this game of Ultimate Chicken, it's a big focus on whether or not you're set up, whether or not you've got enough ultimates, enough resources to see yourself safely through in the fight after. And Shanghai Wagons, unfortunately, in that last fight when they were defending that point, they put in way too much, to the point where they only had a Deadeye to try and zone Yorkshire Terriers out. And Terriers, they had the better zoning tools, right? They had that Bob, they had those mice that they could just come in and dictate how the fight flowed, making sure that Wagons weren't able to intrude back onto that point, and all they could do was just stare from the sidelines. But it's going to be Night Market now. And Eagle and Melon starting off on the Tourbillon and the McCree shows that they understand Terriers are going to try and put George onto this Hammond, try to go for those environmental kills, and they're going to do everything they can to shut him down.
Yeah, no compositional swaps as Shanghai Wagons path around through Light's side. Working through that small room, slowly but surely making their way under the objective with this double shield composition. Joey winning the main tank battle, takes down Lynx, and they're able to shut down George as well. It looks like those counter comps indeed coming through very handy for Shanghai Wagons as they've got first control started.
Yeah, George is going to have a real hard time getting through this composition because he wants to go for Cake. He wants to go for that Batiste to burn out the immortality field to allow Susan and Royals to do so much damage with the spam composition you can have when you come out with an Ashe and an Echo. But Cake is so well guarded at the moment. You've got Noise on that Brigida with just a little bit more, so you see it already! George went for the swing and immediately had to get straight back out.
And down to, looks like 1 health, eventually taken down by Melon. Royals missing as well. Now the remaining 4 members of Yorkshire Terriers trying to push through Light Room, but they're at a massive deficit, and I think a reset is advised indeed. They are going to go ahead and beat a retreat here. Try to wait for those last remaining 2 team members to get back into the fight.
They have to be so careful. They're behind in ultimates as well. Like, ideally you want this Transcendence to come online so you can trespass into this point without losing anyone, because you're just going to be taking so much spam damage from that McCree, from that Torbjorn, but you want to be holding on to it as well, because Mompy's got the Sigma Flux and he can just drop your entire team back into that respawn room.
We're going to get both Ant Matrix going out. Mompy may not even have to use that Flux. Some early picks coming through, though. Eagle does go down in the back line. Holding that Deadeye. Could be a slight opening here for the Terriers. No, indeed. Mompy will eventually invest the Flux, find both supports with that, maintain control here of Shanghai Wagons.
But the Flux was invested. And now, well, no. E-Series, they were 4% away from a Transcendence. Bull. A Transcendence would have bought them a free ticket onto that point without losing anyone. But as it is, they're going to be swapping them onto the Lucio. It's that final fight territory as well. You've got the Lucio, you've got the speed, but you don't have the sign fire, you don't have the safety that the ultimate could have offered you.
And they're going to be running into 3 ults from the other side. Bob coming out early. Oh my goodness! The Deadeye. Bob actually assisted Eagle to get over the May wall. Finds 2 kills with that. Melon coming through with the Molten Core. Shanghai Wagons tying us up here on Lijiang. That was funny.
I wish they had not swapped that Xanos.
Yeah.
You went the entire round trying to build up that Transcendence. And we saw it creeping closer and closer and closer, and that would have been such a nice way to move on to that point, right? You know you were going to be dealing with that Molten Core. It wouldn't have saved you from the Deadeye, which picked up too, which was huge, with Mompy coming up with that pull as well. But if you'd had that Transcendence, you had to have just a little bit more of a safety trigger. And instead they swap off it just as it's about to come online to go for that speed boost, because it is just that close to that final fight. You had to be able to get that touch going through, but you could have achieved that with someone going on to Tracer. But now it's going to be Control Center, and this is where we're seeing that meta slightly shift away, but both of these guys not going to be running out with the spam composition. No Junkrat to be seen. It's just that May once again coming out from Melon to try and shut George down.
Yeah, using the sim set strats as well as that May to go grab the position, allow the May to get where she needs to be, to maximize the effectiveness of that wall. We're going to get Doomfist and Reaper from the other side. As Yorkshire Terriers looking to get up close and personal, looking for that real quick pick potential. George going back over to the Hammond, and well, so far, it looks like Yorkshire Terriers are just going to give up this point for free.
Well, they can't go in, right? Susan's just going to get frozen up. There's going to be an immortality field preventing you from getting any picks, and you yourself are just going to be feeding yourself into the slaughterhouse.
Lynx and Susan both going down in a slaughterhouse indeed on the objective. Thy name is the Shanghai Wagons doing the slaughtering, 17% and counting. Getting some ults on the board as they fortify their position.
And it's going to be so hard as well for Yorkshire Terriers to move back onto this, because those symmetric turrets are set up all around the wall. So if you're Susan, you are going to be taking so much damage when you go for those flanks, when you try to find that tasty pick onto Cake, who once again so fortified behind this entire team composition.
Once again, also another slow approach here from the Terriers. There goes the Wrecking Ball in. Doomfist going in as well. Nice coordination with the Immortality Field directly on point, right where it needs to be. Cake keeping his team alive. Mompy finds the kill onto the Doomfist, and the Wrecking Ball not locked in this world either. Reaper goes down. No more DPS standing for Terriers, and I don't think they have the punching power to stay here on the point. Despite getting a little bit of a free flip, 7% is all they're going to find.
Honestly, the only way that this Doomfist pick is going to work out is if Santix gives this Doomfist the nano boost before he goes in. That's the only way he's going to be able to survive long enough to get a pick. There's just too much available that can immediately shut him down. The Blizzard as well is going to be available for Melon, and you're running that Anna, you're running that Brigitte on the side of Yorkshire Terriers. They don't have Immortality Field. If they get caught up in this, they are dead.
Yeah, bow support ults coming online for the Shanghai Wagons here as well. We're going to get that Ant Matrix out first, and Royals takes a lot of damage right out of the gate. Forced to use that Wraith early. Meteor Strike coming in, but once again, Cake Johnny on the spot with the Immortality Field. Cake does eventually fall, but oh, look at the health bars of the DPS. They're oh so low. The Nano Boost had been used onto Royals to find that one kill, but now it doesn't look like they have anything left in the tank to close this thing out. Eagle's going to get the kill onto Susan. Now the Earthshatter coming online, but the Death Blossom does come in, finding a pair before Melon takes him down. Looks to be a 3v2, 3v3 on the point. Baptiste returning to the fight with the overtime wick starting to burn. Supercharger out from the Yorkshire Terriers, and now the reinforcements coming through on that side. They are going to get 2 picks and will eventually flip this point after a little bit of cleanup.
Susan going to be able to build up 50% to that next meteor strike in that fight alone. Royals doing a very good job of buying attention away from that Doomfist. Santix even put the nano boost onto Royals, not just to pick up that first kill, but to get him a little bit closer to that Death Blossom, because when Shanghai Wagons are running that Reinhardt, that Orisa, they're not running the Sigma. You have no way of negating the ultimate. You just have to take the entirety of the damage, and Yorkshire Terriers were able to use that one to flip things just ever so slightly in their favor. They do still have to worry about Joey though. This Reinhardt shadow could be absolutely monumental.
Oh, he got punched out of it. Mid-shatter, Susan right there to interrupt it. Melon with a little bit of a revenge takes him down. Santix falls as well. So good start here on the retake with 99% on the board. Shanghai Wagons coming in with a vengeance. Do lose Joey and Eagle along the way, but the numbers are still in their favor. Wrecking Ball goes into pieces, and here comes the point flip for Shanghai Wagons.
And Noyes is going to be so close to that sound barrier as well. Yorkshire Terriers try to get that touch, but it's just not enough. And again, one thing that we can see coming out immediately that puts Terriers at such a disadvantage in each of these engagements, in each of these fights, even before you look at ultimates, is just the supports that they're running. They're constantly without that immortality field. They're constantly having to build up to that rally, to that nano boost. Whereas on the other side, all you've got to do to find value with your backline is wait 25 seconds.
And I can see what Yorkshire Terriers were going for, trying to utilize the Doomfist to get the immortality field out first and then send the Reaper in to kind of clean up the fight. But the problem is Susan was going down early every time. And if without the Doomfist staying alive, they didn't have the punching power, quite literally, to finish the fight.
Yeah, they accounted for the backline. They didn't account for the Mei. As soon as that Doomfist punches in, he just gets frozen up. And the entire team just chew him on out, and he doesn't really get much of a say in any of those fights. And then you're down a DPS, and all of that focus that should be away from your Reaper, suddenly it's sixfold, and the Reaper's gone just as quickly.
Right. Well, blazing fast start here for Shanghai. Will be the Yorkshire Terriers map pick, as we are heading into Escort here for map number 2. Was that...
They'll have that pick of Rialto, Route 66, and Junkertown, and it seems as if they're leaning towards Route 66. And this is a play that I can understand them wanting to lean into, because you can keep running the Reaper. In fact, this is a little bit of a strategy that we're seeing come to the forefront this week, actually, Bullskunk, where you send a Reaper to sort of go on to that high ground, right? To do just enough to get in and dislodge the double shield bunker that's been sitting on top of that garage. And as soon as they're dislodged, the rest of your team who are waiting on that low ground just swarm all over them.
It's a delicate maneuver. You've got to be able to close the gap with the Reaper so they can get in the right position to teleport onto top of Big Earls and start putting the hurt down onto the double shield composition. If the Ash can get the long distance damage down, the Reaper could struggle. But with a deft hand, you get that Reaper in close, and then the thing flips on its head. It's a whole new fight, and the attackers can overwhelm that high ground and claim the positional advantage. We'll see if we see this Reaper here as we head into the desert. It's been an interesting meta shift. I've really enjoyed seeing how patch 1.49 has shaken everything up.
I mean, when you say shaking everything up, I think you just mean appeased all of the Genji mains everywhere. They were very tired of not getting skins from a lot of these anniversary events, right? How long has it been since Genji's had a new skin? It must have been something like 3 events now. And they heard their cries. They heard the woes. They decided not just to bring Genji back, but to bring Genji back so he's now a triple threat, because you don't just have to worry about that blade. No, he can still slaughter your entire team when he doesn't even have that ult available.
His consistency has gone through the roof. I mean, it's amazing how those little changes, just tightening the spread on that alt fire, bringing out the ability to cancel your deflect. These small little things have just propelled Genji to the top of the DPS meta, and it is certainly a second coming.
I mean, you think about the number tweaks as well. They were so small. It was
Right.
28 to 30 on the damage. Like, that's 2. It's
All
a
right. Well,
difference of 2, but somehow it's just been enough, and we've seen an absolute mountain of Genji since.
well, it looks like we're going to take a very quick break, but we see you back here on Route 66 in just a few moments. Y'all don't go anywhere. Oh, welcome back, my friends. We are ready for map number 2 here in the Get Good playoffs. Shanghai Wagons with a 1-0 lead. Yorkshire Terriers chosen Route 66 to try to see if they can even up this series.
I mean, I'm going to be interested to see. We talked so much about the Genji, right? Before the break. We haven't seen Genji today from either of those sides, and that's something that's extremely surprising for me, but perhaps not quite so surprising for you, because when you were going through the roster sheets, you did notice something a little bit different about one of these guys' DPS lineups, didn't you?
Indeed. Yorkshire Terriers, they seem to have one player who enjoys both the Ashe, the McCree, and the Genji. Whereas the Flex DPS player opted for more niche picks like the Sombra and the Echo, which we saw a bit of there on Lijiang Tower. And I like it. The Yorkshire Terriers coming up with their own personality here. And we are in the expert division. This is the creme de la creme of the Get Good. And yet they're giving us the Wrecking Ball. They're giving us the Echo. I'm anxious to see if they continue this trend as we head through this series. Furthermore, if they can find success.
I do like the Wrecking Ball pick. I personally adore it because it puts the other team in such a horrible position. If you're able to pull it off, you've got that frontline presence, but you're constantly in the backline. So it's all of the value that a Genji does, but you have a bigger health pool. You're a lot more quicker on your feet, so you don't have to have as much support from the rest of your team to keep you up and alive in all of these engagements. Hammer is just a little bit better of an escapability, and while the ultimate is not quite as scary as the Genji Blade, Hammond's Mines can do an awful lot when it comes to shutting down those spaces and allowing your DPS to get some really nice picks in.
And also sealing off routes of retreat. You always talk about and you hear about how it's so important to know your rotations, to know where you're going to fall back to. The Hammond can shut that down with the press of a button. And then suddenly you're running back into a bunch of death, the pressure coming through. You can create a really nice sandwich maneuver utilizing those mines. And I think it also gives Yorkshire Terriers the option to run that BAP Zen like we were seeing earlier. You can have more damage-focused supports because you don't have to worry about pouring those resources into 2 tanks. You just got to keep that Orisa alive.
Yeah, and honestly, Hammond sort of works as that whole on steroids, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about your cooldowns, you just bowl them straight into your team, and all of what they were trying to carefully plan, like when they tried to go for that high ground setup, and it took them so long to get a double shield composition up those steps without a Lucio, you just come in, and you derail all of that careful planning.
Well, heading into Route 66, Shanghai Wagons will take to the defense here to start things off. We'll have Yorkshire Terriers going on the attack. So see if we get that Hammond out once again. I'm anticipating more meta compositions coming from Shanghai Wagons, but they could prove me wrong here, Moxie. It wouldn't be the first time.
Well, depending on how you look at how they sort of approach those Lijiang, right? They went for a lot of meta, but they also went for a lot of dive shutdown. And
Right.
so Route 66, when you're attacking, you do have your pick of compositions that you can get away with on most parts of this map, and dive is absolutely one of those. So if you're defending, you do have to sort of account for the possibility that there is going to be a dive composition coming on through, and we can already see Melon locked in on that dive deterrent. The Torbjorn turret will be there behind both layers of this shielding to make sure if it's a Genji, if it's a Winston, they're thinking twice before they jump.
Yeah, Yorkshire Terriers seem to be the team to keep the adaptability in check. Are you just going to stubbornly stick with the meta, or can you adapt to what they're showing you, these strange compositions, which coming out of the gate looks like double shield with the Echo and the Genji here to start things off for the Terriers.
But Lynx is going to be on that Reinhardt, so you've actually got to get close enough to start doing anything in this fight other than just holding your shield up, and that means this double shield bunker on the high ground is going to be having an absolute field day before the fight starts, just poking away at your composition.
Especially since Shanghai Wagons, everybody is up on Big Earls. They're not opting for the split defense like we sometimes see on the point. All 6 bunkered on top of the garage here. And it's going to be very difficult indeed for Lynx to cover that gap. So, well, what are they opted for? Looks like Yorkshire Terriers are just going to kind of slow walk this thing through. Lynx is going to use the objective itself to hop up there, but does get rocked right back down to the low ground. Echo trying to come around to strip things from the back, see if they can do a little divide and conquer. Does take down Eagle, but Joey takes down George on the other side. So back to a 5v5 on the point. Attackers missing one of their shields. Having that Reinhardt means you do still have that extra main tank, and once again, trades coming through. It's going to be a 4v3 favoring the attackers, and Royals still in this thing. They're going to have to take care of this Genji if the defense wants to hold here on point A. An early nano boost onto the Reinhardt. Oh.
An early nano boost, but let's be honest, an unnecessary nano boost. Because you could have saved that in your pocket for Royals, who will be coming into this next fight with the blade, and you need some form of insurance, rather, for this Genji to actually be able to live long enough to use it and use it for the entirety, because Shanghai Wagons are going to be coming in with the superchargers, the Sigma Flux. Those are things you can use to very quickly chip a Genji down.
That George only halfway to the supercharger. They don't even have that to couple with the blade. If Royals wants to use that ultimate this next fight, I think it's going to have to be dry, and there's going to be a whole lot to get through. You got the Brigstone to watch out for, you got the infield to watch out for, and the supercharger coming out from the defense right here. Not to mention the Gravitic Flux coupled with it. Paracle's coming through. The blade does come out, finds one, and it's a 1-for-1 trade on the DPS. Now Royals moving up to the high ground, seeing if he can find the other kill in the DPS, but the Sigma right there to fend him off with a beautiful accretion rock. Eagle taking him down with the final blow from the Viper.
Joey is just the bane of Lynx's life right now. This guy cannot care to shatter up. He was halted out of it and then hit him off these Sigma Flux as well. Shanghai Wagons doing such a good job at making sure the setup that Terriers were relying on to let Royals have such a good blade completely denied, and now you have to get to this high ground, try to deny Melon's existence because he's got that molten core, and he's just waiting for this team to try and move on to that payload before he can just unleash absolute hell from above.
Fire and brimstone indeed. Sand takes it once again, throwing the nano boost onto the Reinhardt, but here it comes, the heat from above. And the Molten Core doing a good job of just scattering the attackers, making them easy pickings as they scramble for their lives. Shanghai Wagons picks them apart.
Yorkshire Terriers, they do have ultimates, the only ultimates currently on board for either of those teams, so that should be an advantage. But again, you're going to run into that problem. You're running a Reinhardt into a poke composition where he's got to get close enough, not just to survive, but to use his ultimate. And Shanghai Wagons, when they've got this Torbjorn, this Ashe, there's just so much damage that you're taking. It's constantly such a problem for Yorkshire Terriers that you need something like a nano boost or a rally to let the Reinhardt actually get into the fight.
At the very least, a Lucio to help speed close the gap. But Susan going over the top, nice start. That could help out if you take the Ashe down. You got at least some of that poke missing, but Cake picks off the Brig along the way. Now striking back, Cake is going to fall. Lynx finds the kill on the other support as well. Two-man advantage here for the attacking team. No more supports left for the defense. The duplicate used onto the Orisa to help clean up on the back of point B.
Yeah, Yorkshire Terriers, as soon as they're actually able to get that fight into the close quarters, that's when they can really be quite hard for Shanghai to deal with, because you're an Orisa. And the Reinhardt just walks past your shield, and once you walk past the shield, the Orisa is just dead. You can try to have Fortify, it might save you for a couple of seconds, but it will be only seconds. The Shanghai Wagons now forced on the defense on point C. They do have that superchargers, and Eagle will have this fob. On the other side, Terriers are just forced to play the patient game right now, build up to Royals' Deadeye, and hope that by putting that nano boost onto McCree, he's able to survive, not just to use it, but also to get picks.
I anticipate the nano going back onto the Reinhardt. If you didn't nano the blade, I don't think you're going to nano the Deadeye. They seem to favor putting it on Lynx. I do like the swap that Royals had made prior to that last engagement, though. Going over to the McCree allowed for a little bit more poke coming through, but Eagle getting the better end of that duel. Takes Royals down 9% away from Deadeye. Follows it up a nice kill onto Susan. Eagle just clicking heads here with the Viper, finding both DPS in that fight.
Oh, and they're gonna get the stacker onto that!
Oh, the poor Auto. Oh, no.
was not able to get out with the rest of the team and was punished. And now Terriers, they may have the Deadeye bolt, but they don't have the high ground to pull it off. And Wagons are not going to be allowing them any easy passage to set that one up.
Not at all. Molten Core Supercharger online. Here comes that fire and brimstone from above. All over the back of the objective. Cake taking down Lynx as he scrambles to get away. Moppy finding the kill out of George as well. No more tanks for the attacking team, which means no more assault coming through.
Again, though, Yorkshire Terriers will be coming in with this Shadow, with this Nano, with this Rally. A lot of aggression available right now for the attackers. A lot of ways to get Link safely from your respawn onto the payload to force that close quarters combat that Shanghai Wagons really do not want right now.
Yeah, with the ult advantage on their side, I think this is the best opportunity for Yorkshire Terriers to push through. Gravitic Flux coming online now. Subin finds an open blow onto Eagle. Link's kind of circling around. Oh, I thought he was going to try to flank around the truck. I was about to get real excited. No, they're just going to maintain the conservative approach. Slowly but surely pushing this card home. Royals with a two-man Deadeye. Lynx pushes around to the right side. Closes the grip here on the defense. And, well, Yorkshire Terrier is able to push this thing home with a $1:38 left in the clock.
Wagons invested so much to trying to make sure that Yorkshire Terriers weren't able to close the distance. Amplification Matrix gets dropped onto main, and unfortunately it means that you don't have that back to sort of claw the fight back into your favor to try and get a really nice quick kill through it. And so we see the Sigma Flux was there, but the Sigma doesn't get to use it. He dies with it up, and Terriers, like we said, when it is that really distant fight, where they're trying to get in, they suffer so much by running that Reinhardt. But as soon as that fight transitions into that 1 meter between these two teams separating them, that's when the Reinhardt gets an absolute free passage.
I liked the swap onto the McCree as well. That I think it really allowed Lynx to help close that gap and provide a lot more mid-fight power.
Yeah, but again, Yorkshire Terriers, they're going to be coming out with this Reinhardt. This time you're on the defense, and this time it's not going to be about trying to get your Reinhardt into the team, because you don't have that Lucio, right? You can't go for the really aggressive speed boost straight into the attackers and try and wipe them out before the fight can properly start. You're relying on keeping Lynx up because Santix is going to be there with that Batiste with the Immortality Field, but if you invested to keep this Reinhardt alive, and he will be separated from the rest of the team, he won't be there with the Arista, he'll be on the low ground, they'll be on the high ground, then you'll have that domino effect. You won't have it when the fight properly starts in full.
Yeah, it looks like Yorkshire Terrier is kind of forced to run this split defense, as you mentioned, keeping the Reinhardt low. Melon going out on the Sombra, just doing a bit of scouting before going back over to the Genji. And opting for the high damage support line. Shanghai Wagons coming out with the Baptiste and the Zen. I guess with no Genji on the other side, there's no need for them to bring the Brig. As they slowly start to put pressure down. And as you can see the Discord onto that Reinhardt. Shanghai Wagons trying to get the big German off the battlefield immediately. But that Brig is doing a good job of sticking right with him, keeping him up. Poorly Immortality Field forced out. And that means cooldowns used. Susan did get first blood, but Mompy's going to strike right back. And I think that Shanghai Wagons will start finding a little bit momentum here on the front of this point. Yep, there goes the Amplification Matrix. There goes Lynx. Now the Brig trying to get away. I can't believe they got out of there or survived as long as they did even. But that's going to be a very swift win here for Shanghai Wagons.
Lynx is just not able to play Overwatch right now. Every time that Ryan dropped the shield, Lynx just came in with that Orb of Discord, landed straight onto the Reinhardt's head, and Lynx was again forced his whole shield up. And Yorkshire Terriers, we said it would be very vulnerable running that split composition. You would have so little to try and keep your Reinhardt up. And if you tried to go for the full commitment to keep him alive, you wouldn't be able to out-damage Wagons, and we're seeing it in full right now.
Bob throwing out onto the high ground, but Shanghai Wagons not deterred at all. They didn't even flinch. They just dispatched Bob and take out E in the process on the Brig. Now Melon with the blade available, going into the back line, looking for the Ash, but the front line of the Terriers, oh my goodness, the Arisa and Reinhardt combining for a whole host of kills and putting the brakes on this payload.
But what do you have in this next fight that can shut Melon down? And the answer, if you're a Yorkshire Terriers fan, it's not a nice one, Wolfskunk. You've got nada. George will have that supercharger, sure, but you've actually got to connect onto the Kenshi. And Noix is so close to that Transcendence, you're going to have to burn out both the Immortality Field and the Ultimate from the Zen if you want to start securing this picks. Meanwhile, Melon can just come in and dismantle your entire team.
And they've done such a good job, the Shanghai Wagons, of getting the Immortality Field out early. This is going to take some great discipline from Syntax. See if she can hold on to it to defend against the blade itself, or if he can survive that long, going down very low. The Immortality Field forced out by the Gravitic Flux.
Now Melon free to use the blade if they so choose, but there's already half of the defense missing here, Moxie.
You just want to hold on to this blade, honestly, because you can use it as a sort of battering ram in the next fight.
No.
And they will. They'll hold on to it. They know that they don't have to invest it, and now they're going to be coming in with that win condition still up there. And if you choose to, Joey's going to have the supercharges to combo up with it. Yorkshire Terriers, though, because the blade doesn't come out in that fight, will have the rally armor to try and see themselves through. But it's more Royals that I'm looking at with this prevention method of just send Bob in. You have that little bit of a deterrent. The Genji has to be worried about getting taken down by the Omnic. He can't go for the rest of your team. And that should be able to burn out 2 ultimates for the price of only 1.
Yeah, defensive Bob would certainly be the ticket here, but nope, they're going to use the Bob early, just throw it right onto the payload, try to devalue the Ant Matrix from the attackers. Susan's going to duplicate the Baptiste, try to throw an extra IF onto the playing field, as Syntax wins the battle against Kate. Now here comes the Blade, 2 Baptiste, and not enough Immortality Fields to keep the defense alive. Melon coming up with a big 3K in that fight.
I mean, you may have had 2 Baptiste Immortality Fields, but you didn't have that Zenyatta, you didn't have that Transcendence, and you didn't have that Bob. You used it far too aggressively to try and initiate that fight, to try and shut that Amplification Matrix down, but that wasn't the Amplification Matrix that you should be worried about. You needed to worry about the Blade. Amplification Matrix you can just move out of the way from. The Genji can actually, you know, he's walking, he's got legs, so he can chase the kills himself, but Lynx will have the Shadow, and if it can land, it should be all the power Yorkshire Terriers need, but it's going to be so hard to connect because all of Shanghai Wagons are playing on the high ground. They're staying away from the Rhine.
Susan able to find a kill up on that high ground, and the Rhine shield already low. Just as you said, Wagons doing a great job of just maintaining their distance, putting in pressure from all angles onto this composition. Now the Flux comes through. Oh, and Terriers are all grouped up in a tiny little room, and the Shatter gets nothing. Nada finds just empty ground. And now the kill's lighting up the other way. Royals trying to bring it back. Throws the big Omnic Butler into the mix. Does pick up a pair of kills, but was it enough? It was actually enough. No, Wagons are going to go ahead and reset. I thought they had gotten this one through for sure, Moxie.
Yeah, Lynx actually had gone on to the Hammond because I think Yorkshire Terriers thought for sure that Shanghai Wagons would be pressing pedal to the metal right about now, but now they waited. He's back on the Reinhardt, and now you have to worry about the ultimates that are going to be coming online for the defending side. Right, you're going to have that Amplification Matrix that supercharges. Melon may have the Blade, but you don't have the supercharges to combo it up with, and you don't have the Transcendence or even the Zen to try and keep himself alive through it.
Second time that Nuya has gone down early. She's struggling to stay alive in the early part of this fight. Amplification Matrix out from the defense, but Wagons just wisely going to kite around that, avoid that LOS. As they take to the high ground, try to find a weakness here in the armor of the Yorkshire Terriers.
You have to be very careful though, because when you come into this team, George will just drop those supercharges.
Ant Matrix as well from the other side. So much damage on the field. Cake finding first blood. The supercharger taken out. A lot of equipment going down and a lot of cooldowns used by the defense. That's the cue for the Wagons to push in, clean up the back of this fight. Melon able to take down the Brig. Not even the big Omnic Butler enough to save the Terriers this time.
Susan thought about going for the Doomfist when you have that really quick contest that you need to get in, but is going to opt for the Tourbillon instead. So going to try to deal with Melon the hard way, but Melon's already got the ultimate built up. In fact, Shanghai Wagons already have quite a deep pool of ultimates built up, and if you're Yorkshire Terriers, you may have the high ground, but you don't have something to manage to keep it in your control, right? You don't have Santix, who's just a little bit too far away from that Amplification Matrix that guarantees you get to stand there.
Just a rally. They're going to use that first Knight's Halt into the Flux. This is going to find both of your front shielded characters. Eagle throwing the Butler down. Ends up finishing off the Brig. The Reinhardt's going to fall as well. So 2 ults used, 2 kills coming through to good advantage. Still holding on to Blade and Transcendence, but less than a minute on the clock here for the Shanghai Wagons.
Mel's just waiting on this high ground, waiting for them to walk out of that respawn, and if they don't know where the Genji is, then they are going to pay so dearly.
Just perched up like the stealthy ninja that he is. Here he comes. There goes the Katana back into the backline. Immortality Field taken out immediately, but no kills coming through. Arisa able to fortify up, and Melon could not find any prime squishy targets with which to cut down. Now the defense is striking right back.
Wagons are just forced on the retreat. The Genji goes in with the blade far too early. The team has not forced that immortality field. That was the play Wagons needed if they wanted to go for that moveset, and it just blows up in their face. You may have an amplification matrix. Noise is even actually going to go on to the Lucio, so you can just try and get the distance close just a little bit faster with that last little bit of seconds on the clock. But Lynx is so close to that shadow, and this can shut the fight down.
Oh, jumping in right from the top row. Lynx getting into the thick of things. The Shatter finds both supports, as does the subsequent Fire Strike. The Ant Matrix not enough to help Wagons take this final point. And Yorkshire Terriers will tie up this match after a little bit of cleanup.
If that immortality field had come out, if that Genji was able to find the kills with that blade, we would be seeing a different result lighting up on our screen right about now, but the blade's far too early. And unfortunately, you lose Route 66 because of your over-eagerness.
Agreed. They just got a little impatient. Melon got just a little too impatient, and it's a matter of seconds, right? I mean, we're not talking anything drastic, but that 1 or 2 seconds is the difference between win or loss here on Route 66.
You had that sort of instinct as well, because the Genji sees the amplification matrix go down, knows that the entire team is going to be clustered up, and you have that decision to make. Do you blade when Immortality Field is still up and available to make sure that no one on your side gets taken down by a team that can focus through an amplification matrix and take you away? Or do you wait just a little bit longer and perhaps sacrifice one member to pick up a team kill? And honestly, you needed to wait. When you had that little time left to work with, you know that you're not going to be able to get a full reset. You know that you're going to be swapping onto the Hammond, onto the Tracer. That means ultimates are going to go away. All of what you've built up in the past couple of fights goes completely out of the window. But unfortunately, the Genji, he goes out of the window too, and right into it as well.
Well, now, Shanghai Wagons map pick, and looks like they're choosing Blizzard World here for our hybrid map today. I'm excited about this one.
I can see why they want to as well, because we talk about how you've got the Terriers and they're running this Reinhardt, a very unorthodox, very off-meta pick at the moment. A lot of Reinhardt mains just can't play Rein at the moment. Blizzard World has a lot of focus on high ground, has a lot of focus on battling out for that high ground, and that means if you're running the Orisa that Sigma, you don't have to worry about closing the gap, right? You don't have to worry about actually walking the catwalks. You just have to get up the steps for that initial engagement. Right. Reinhardt, he's not just going to be walking up those steps. He's got to walk the entire distance unless he wants to do anything except look pretty behind that rectangle.
And quite a bit of long, straight, narrow sight lines to work with as well. So the Ashe with the meta Orisa Sigma, I think we'll definitely have a compositional advantage here. But I thought the same thing on Route 66, and Terrier's able to come out with the dub. So.
It's the thing, right? The two faces we see from the Terriers, when they are far away from the composition that they're facing, they take so much damage and they have a real hard time actually finding any sort of opening. But as soon as we see that fight get just a little bit closer, and you can have that Reinhardt coming through and being a presence in that fight, then there is just so much damage that is being pumped out from the side of Terrier's team, because Shanghai Wagons, they're running with what's meta, they're not running with a Reinhardt counter.
And props to Lynx, some smart play on the Rhine as well, doing their best to play clever to cover that gap. I loved that Earth Shatter in the back of point C coming in off the high ground. I mean, it seemed to completely catch the Wagons by surprise. But as the Yorkshire Terriers go onto the defense here to start us off in Blizzard World, Lynx coming out back on the Orisa. George showing us that wrecking ball once again.
Yeah, so you have to acknowledge, even if you want to play the Reinhardt, that high ground is just a staple on Blizzard World, as we get to see. Shark just keeps dangling. Give some props to the observational team. They've got some skills. They know what's watching. But we still talk about high ground and how influential it is on buying so much time and setting your Ashe up for so much spam damage to build up to the ultimate just a little bit faster. Yorkshire Terriers don't have any presence on high ground right now. They're holding at point, and that means that Shanghai Wagons get pretty much a free ticket. Apart from taking a slight bit of poke damage, they'll have to worry about George, who will be on the high ground, who will be trying to roll this composition out of order. But right now, Yorkshire Terrier is very split, very vulnerable on all angles.
Yeah, and pulling out that Ano once again. Speaking of vulnerable, I think that Ano is going to be very susceptible here. As Melon finding first blood, as Melon's coming out on the Echo. Oh, I love the Echo duel that we're seeing. George, well, just has no luck. Rolls right into a bunch of death. Melon finds the kill onto Lynx. Half the defense gone. And that is a quick point A here for the Shanghai Wagons.
Shanghai Wagons have Yorkshire Terriers completely figured out right now. Because look, Noya, again, onto that Zenyatta knows that there is no punishment, knows that there won't be a Genji. Now there will be a Genji. But you were already about halfway to your Transcendence, and you're going to be there with Cake. You're going to be doing so much damage. The dive, it will be coming from Yorkshire Terriers. But that means that once again, Santix is going to be so very vulnerable, only the Brig protecting them when Mom tries to find that support.
And the Discord Orb was a great pick against the initial attack of the Hammond. Those big health pools, it's just that fewer shots to take down the tank line. Noya going to go ahead and make the swap over to the Brig to counter the Genji. I mean, Shanghai Wagons, like you said, they seem to have the Terriers downloaded right now.
And Eagles as well, gone onto that McCree, more CC, more dive prevention measures.
Well, speaking of dive, here comes the pile driver from above. A nice anti into the pack. But it's traded out. Melon with the focusing beam finds both tanks. No more Winston, no more Hammond. And Link's making the swap over to Monkey here is an interesting pick. He trying to get back in the mix, but I think it's just a consolation prize here for the Terriers.
So the dive comes through, but it completely ignores Eagle on that sideline. Who's there with that flashbang, who's there just popping shots into Yorkshire Terrier's composition, picking up those heads and doing so much that you're already 60% to that Deadeye. Wagons already in control of that high ground. The dive, there will be a lot of cleave coming through for Lynx, but even the Primal Rage is not really going to be enough to keep yourself safe on this card.
George is already down. Lynx follows shortly behind. Melon able to get the duplicate out just before they pick off Lynx. And now there are 3 tanks on the field for the attacking team, 0 for the defense, and that just means an easy point to lemon squeezy here, Moxie.
But Yorkshire Terriers, they've got their win condition now, right? Santix with this Ana will have that nano boost, and the stars have aligned. The ultimates, they're both up and available at the same time. Royals will have that blade, but Monty is the Sigma that has the card that can ruin all of Yorkshire Terriers' plans. With this flex, you can pick up that Genji, you can completely deny those 2 ultimates from finding anything. And Terriers, they're going to be placing all of their cards on that coming up absolutely clutch.
Yeah, will we finally get the Genji blade that was promised? The Nano Blade. Susan goes down early in that fight holding the duplicate, but it looks like Wagons just kind of slow rolling this thing. So Susan should be able to make it back before this fight breaks out. The Nano onto the Winston to keep him alive through the Flux, which means it's not on Royals, who gets immediately decimated. Susan trying to throw a Deadeye in the back after using the duplicate onto the McCree, but it just seems to be nowhere near enough to shut down this attack. They're just steamrolling on the side of Wagons.
But George will have those Hammer Mice to come in and buy Terriers just a little bit of time, but time is not something that they have right now. That pillage so close, the ultimate's already in the favor of Wagons.
Wagons in complete control right now as they throw down the amplification matrix. Royal strikes back as we had the Viper coming through big for the defense. Finds a pair of kills in that, but Melon answers in kind, finds a pair of kills of their own, and suddenly the defense looking really thin.
We talked about it. We said that the defense would be very, very fragile. It's feast or famine when you're running dive and you don't have a Batiste. When you're running that Ana, that break, you don't have Immortality Field. And worse, you don't even have an ultimate that you can cycle to that guarantees you live through a fight, right? Rally, maybe just a little bit of aggression that you can use, but it does not have anywhere near the saving power as a Silent Barrier or a Transcendence. So every single time your team gets pressured, every single time the dive starts to fall apart, then you are just going to fall apart because you've got nothing to claw it back. Breaks healing, you don't get overhealed now with those armor packs, and Ana, you've been nerfed. You do 70 healing per second, no longer that 75, and as a player who has many, many hours dedicated to Ana myself, I can tell you right now, you feel that 5 difference in every single one of those engagements.
Yeah, a deceptively small number compared to the impact that nerf had on Ana. Again, it's
just... It forces Ana players as well to using up one of their best abilities. That nade that comes through, you have to put it onto your team. You can't try to put it into the enemies to deny them healing, because if you don't have your team naded, then you're just not doing enough healing to actually keep them alive when the fight starts.
Well, now the Wagons going on the defense, hoping that great push will be enough to give them the 2-1 lead here in our playoff series. No surprises, really. We're going to get the Echo McCree on the side of Wagons once again, as they're looking to hold Griffin here. Kind of a split defense. You've got the Orisa on the bottom right, the Sigma with the damage dealers up on that top left, trying to create some crossfire.
Susan sticking with Widow though. You're going to have crossfire. The Widow's going to be all the way in the back, waiting for Melon to fly up. Does manage to get a shot off, but doesn't manage to get the pick.
An interesting rotation coming through from the Terriers. They tried to go all the way around to the back, but Melon with the focusing, being able to find both tanks, shut down this assault. Back to the drawing board, go the Terriers.
Split pushes on A are so greedy. They can work out so nicely, but you have to have pressure from your DPS, right? You have to have a Genji just buying attention away from the front line. Otherwise, when you separate your tanks, when you separate your supports, they're just going to be collapsed upon by an entire team and very quickly chewed through. Wales is going to go onto the Reaper, Susan onto the Mace, so the crossfire that they were trying to set up completely failed. Going to be now going for a little bit of a different approach, trying to take that high ground away from Shanghai Wagons, try to mitigate the amount that Melon's able to contribute in all of these fights, but already 72% up to that duplication, and with Yorkshire Terriers having a massive reset, so too have their ultimates.
Absolutely, I do like the Lucio swap pushing in with the speed and to try to close the distance. Trade's coming through, but Terriers lose their Moira. They're gonna have to close this fight out quickly as they don't have much to sustain. 3 kills on the board for him. Susan gets the 4th. Might be just enough here for the Terriers to pick up point A.
They have to open up this next fight though, because you can see Shanghai Wagons are going to be coming into a whole host of ultimates. Pretty soon they're going to have all of them. So if you're Yorkshire Terriers, either Royals has to come in huge with a flank pick onto either the Brigida or the Batiste, or Lynx has to come into the shadow, and it has to be enough to keep Wagons away from you because they're on the high ground. And you can see Terriers with that Reinhardt, they really don't want to move into that open space where the Reinhardt shield is just going to be so exposed. And Wagons know exactly what they're doing. They're making sure they're widening the distance between these teams. They're making Terriers have to decide between pushing that cart and coming to them.
Yeah, and eating so much damage along the way. Eagle throwing down the Deadeye as they try to close the gap, takes down the Lucio. Melon duplicating on the Reinhardt, getting in and putting down so much damage. The Blizzard does come out. Royals finds 1 pick. I don't think, no, he cannot survive. Melon with the final blow. Sends Royals back to spawn. Moppy cleaning up the May.
Well, Yorkshire Terriers, they will have the Shatter, this Death Blossom can be that immediate follow-on through, but again, you're going to be faced with this constant problem of closing the distance. You have to be close enough to initiate with that Shatter to set Royals up. Otherwise, that Reaper is just going to be suiciding straight into Wagon's composition. That Orisa, that Sigma, they're going to be so close. The Sigma can just kinetic grasp all of your damage away. All the while, Nice is just waiting with that shield bash to ruin your day.
Flux will start things off. Found 3. Sound barrier in response from Terriers as they push around through the far right side. So no real damage there as far as they're going to get healed up and no follow through from the Wagons. And now the Wagons doing a good job of just kiting back, supercharger out as they allow the distance to come through. Oh! The Shatter combo does in fact decimate the defense. Royals finding a big 4K on that one, making it work here for the Yorkshire Terriers.
So much invested though.
Yeah,
so
everything.
Much, and the payload
Everything in the
only
kitchen
now
sink.
starting to move, and you're going to be coming in with no ultimates on your side, no aggression, no sustainability. All the while, Shanghai Wagons will be coming in with that rally, with that aggression. Melon so close to that duplication can be the thing that immediately forces Terriers not just to lose this next fight, but means that they're taking so much damage already behind an ultimate, behind in time when they come back for that payload.
Definitely a deficit to overcome. Going to take some magic here in the mid-fight for Terriers to win this next one. And then with the Reinhardt out, Melon just has an easy duplicate target. It's one of the easiest ones. Speaking of, moves up, helps finish off Royals on the high ground. Payload getting close. Defense forced to drop down. Indeed, Melon choosing the Reinhardt as the duplicate charges through the pack, finds a kill, going to turn around, shatter the other support. Melon cleaning up the support line with that duplicate Rein.
And Yorkshire Terriers, remember how long, how many rotations they managed, they had to force before they were able to get that payload moving, because Wagons did such a good job. Every time they see this composition walking towards them, they just walk further away. And that means you're widening the distance, you're allowing Joey and Mompy to get that damage constantly moving through, Eagle constantly able to pump out all of the DPS you can possibly ask for to build you up your bob, and Terriers, because they used so much in those other fights, have nothing right now.
Amplification Matrix out. Eagle may not even have to use that bob. Landed shots true onto George. And this time, they can't even close the gap before they're absolutely destroyed. Yorkshire Terriers had no chance in that fight.
Wagon are just going to be cycling through all of these ultimates they have available. Right, 1 minute left for Yorkshire Terriers to get back onto this payload. Joey can finish this next fight with the superchargers immediately when you have that distance behind you. Yorkshire Terriers, they've got to try and go for once more that play, set links up for the mother of all shatters. That's going to allow Susan to safely get this blizzard through without having it being eaten by the Sigma.
Ooh, Maywall keeps Bob on Shanghai Wagon's side of the battlefield. Here comes the Gravitic Flux. Mompy able to find several with that, and despite losing Joey early, Shanghai Wagons have a great advantage in this fight thanks to that wonderful Gravitic Flux. Now they drop down to clean up the rest, but the cart got in! The cart got in!
Cart got in, time back have been extended, and Yorkshire Terriers have a new lease on life. Perhaps not a new Moira just yet, nor a Lucio, but they have time. Just a little bit more on their side. Santic's going to swap back to the Batiste. So you will have that immortality field. You can just throw it in to allow Lynx the time to actually be able to put the shatter down without immediately falling as soon as you drop your shield, and that allows Royal to come in with this Death Blossom if you so choose.
Speeding on, trying to close the gap immediately. Here comes the Terriers as they look invigorized by that new time bank. Oh, they didn't find what they wanted, and now all their cooldowns are spent, and they have found no kills. Melon strikes back. What a counter punch. Taking down Susan and George, chasing Terriers all the way back into those spawn doors.
Santix went down first, and that when all of Terrier's survivability, all of the aggression that they had on their side is completely drained away by that one pick. They've still got ultimates, though. They did use that shatter, so now you've got to rely on a different way to set the Death Blossom up. George's Sigma Flux will do nicely.
In fact, Flux is going to find quite a few mirrors, finding 4 in that, forcing out the Immortality Field. Melon takes down Royals, though, just as they drop the Death Blossom. That ultimate going nowhere. And now the duplicate coming out from Melon has the Reinhardt throwing down those extra shatters, and there's just nothing Terriers can do to survive this onslaught from the defense.
And they used Blizzard in that last fight. They wasted
Where did it go?
15 seconds on the clock. You'll have an amplification matrix, but Mompy has got the Sigma Flux and Shanghai Wagons. Even if that amplification matrix does drop, they can just disengage and wait the fight because it will be overtime. And when amplification matrix goes away, you come in with a Flux.
Eagle with a good early pick. They're going to take down Susan. And this defense looking to hold strong. They have all the tools. Royals back on the Doomfist, able to equal back. 5v5, both teams missing a DPS. Joey going to throw down the supercharger. And George falls. George swapping over to the Hog and just eats so much damage. You can see it. Royals now swooping around from the back. Seeing that the flank will be the one to open it up. Finds Cake, a really important pick. No more Immortality Field. Susan takes down Melon on the Doomfist. So, Susan tried to give the team a chance with the Brig right there to shut him down. Now Royal's coming back through, tries to take down the tank, but no, that erase is just too beefy. You're not going to be able to take him down. Noya getting in the mix, finding the final blows, and the defense are going to hold on here, barring a miracle from the other side. Could the sound barrier be that miracle? The Wrecking Ball returned into the fight, but the Flux is there. No more healers here for the attacking team. Lynx is going to fall as well. Melon throwing himself off the side with a little help from George, but in the end, the numbers still overwhelming for the defense.
Yeah, you're going to have just numbers. The cart completely stopped. Yorkshire Terriers did a very good job, though, at almost being able to claw that fight back, and all of it is down to that Doomfist. The flank that Doomfist went on, they were on a mission, Bull. They were looking for that Batiste. They went all the way around the backup point and waltzed straight into the composition. Uppercutted the map straight into the air and then finished him off with a good old 1-2.
I got excited. I got excited, Moxie. I thought they were going to do it. They had the dude
I
fist
got
flanking
excited
from
too. They had
behind.
this fire barrier.
The
That
sound
could've
barrier,
negated
exactly.
the
Oh,
That
it
is
was
just not enough. There were ultimates already built up on the other side because you'd had the luxury of being able to stick with the composition that you run, right? So you're going to hit that rally faster. You're going to have amplification matrix so much quicker. Sigma Flux supercharges, all of those come online. Whereas the rest, the other side, they've had to swap onto the Hammond, onto the Tracer, onto the Doomfist, and reset all of their ultimates, which means you're building up and up and up and up and up. And time was just something that you really did not have to expand.
Well, we're gonna head into map 4. I think we'll take a quick break before we go into our no break. Okay, never mind. That's we are ready to get into this. Okay, I like it. I like it. Let's just keep the excitement going. All right, and so we have it's the battle of the typical meta versus the unusual here so far, and it's been super exciting. I'm really enjoying this Terriers team. I like what they're bringing.
I'm just really happy to see Reinhardt again, honestly. It feels like we haven't got to see him in absolute ages. And Reinhardt players, there's just something about being able to swing a hammer straight into the faces of anyone opposing you that's just so satisfying.
I agree. Just that ka-thunk, slam, ka-thunk. Yeah, if you haven't played Reinhardt, you are missing out. I'm telling you, if you're not a take main, I mean, pick him up sometime. He's a lot of fun.
I mean, I try, but it is stressful as well because you have to be so on point, right? The team looks to you. You are just that anchor, that figurehead of pretty much all compositions that you're in. And if the Reinhardt goes down, the backline is suddenly so exposed and you have this massive big old domino effect. Because if you lose a DPS, you're just missing damage. But if you lose a tank, you're missing presence, you're missing that survivability, that little bit of extra sustain that the backline gets offered. And you're missing the pressure on the front line from the other side, which allows the rest of the Sigma to just bulldoze their way on through.
And I think most importantly, you're missing the control. And the team that can control the flow of battle, that can control the pace of the match, they're the ones in command. And the person with control doesn't always win, but when you're in that driver's seat, as you put it, you're the one making the decisions, you're the one forcing the swaps, and that's always where you want to be. And speaking of where we want to be, it looks like we're headed to Japan, going to Hanamura here for map number 4.
This is good to lean into Terriers as well, doesn't it?
That
does. Reinhardt pick on Hanamura, because if there's one thing that Double Shield really struggles with, it's getting through Coyote and Hanamura.
Yes. I mean, it's slow moving, and getting to that front choke of, I mean, you can't move slow. I think we're going to have to see a Symmetra teleport strat if Shanghai Wagons want to maintain the double shield composition that we've seen from them all day.
Yeah, either that or you go for the very slow and languid approach of move through side rooms. And that takes time. If that first fight on point after you've navigated all the way through the side rooms doesn't pay off in your favor, you're not just behind in the fight, you're behind in the time bank.
Right. Oh, yeah, and you give yourself, I mean, with those slow rotations, you only give yourself a couple of fights, and which means you're not building up ultimates as much either. And just statistically, you're just giving yourself far fewer chances to make it happen, to get that all-important fight win on point A.
Yeah, it's that sort of domino effect, isn't it? Where you want to be able to build up as many ultimates as you possibly can, as many fights as you possibly can, and if you go for those slow rotations, then you just deny yourself the chance of that, and the defenders are really happy because you're doing half of their job for them.
Precisely.
Right? You're not going on to point, you're not pressuring, you're not forcing them into a position where they have to choose between winning a fight or giving up ticks. You're just walking into the side rooms. And if you've got something like an Ashe on the defender side, you can still spam damage into those side rooms. You can still be building up the ultimates that are not available for the other side because you're stuck looking at walls and wallpaper rather than the other enemies.
No, at this level, again, we are in the expert division. These players aren't going to sit around twiddling their thumbs. They'll let you eat up the clock all the while doing work to build up their ultimates. I have no doubt. Well, going on the defense, Shanghai Wagons bringing us the very meta double shield, opting for the Mei and the Ashe in the damage department.
This is just slow, isn't it? You're going to have Mel in there trying to use that Mei wall, so when Yorkshire Terriers try to come through this main doors, if they're running that Reinhardt, you can separate them out. But that's a big old if, because this team, they're not running the Reinhardt. No. Lynx is onto the Monkey. They're going for dives, so they're going to try and negate Courtyard entirely by just jumping over the entire thing.
I'm about to say they may not come through the double doors at all. There goes the Genji right onto the roof, the first one through. Shanghai Wagons just ignore him entirely. They're going to wait for him to make a move. Next up was Ball. Now the Winston jumping in, and finally the Maywall comes up. Ball's going to dive into the backline, see if they can open this thing up a little bit. So far, the defense not dissuade. Both teams went down low, and the Immortality Field forced out of Shanghai Wagons. But no kills on the board just yet.
Susan's looking for that pick, but Santix is the one to go down, so the dive a lot more fragile right now.
No Anna, no Hammond here for the attacking team. Susan did get a kill in there, and it's just 4 people left standing on the defense, so I don't know if Terriers will push through on that attack, but perhaps a small window of opportunity here for attack number 2.
Yeah, but you do have to take it extremely quickly, because Cake, when he comes back, he's not just going to come back with that Immortality Field, he's going to come back with Amplification Matrix. And you drop that, even if a dive comes on through, you just cluster up behind it, and that Genji, that Winston, they are not long for the world, because they're not running that D.Va, there's no defense matrix, there's nothing to eat the damage.
Susan swapping off of the Widowmaker, going over to the Echo here for their second engagement. Royals, blade in the pocket, ready to pull that katana out of its sheath. George finds a nice opening pick, but they lose links. Here comes the Dragon Blade, finds 2, looking for the Baptiste, finds 3, cutting through the defense with ease. And dive seems to have worked here on its second assault.
And Yorkshire Terriers can really try for a snowball, because Santix is going to be coming into this nano boost. Link's so close to that primal, but Chudge is the thing that Shanghai Wagons have to be so worried about right now, because that Hammond comes through when mines are up, and Yorkshire Terriers don't have to worry about taking the high ground. They can walk straight onto point, drop those mines, and Shanghai Wagons will be forced to give up a tick, if not more.
Oh, that could be so dangerous. You place the mines just below the high ground while they're trying to drop down. Oh, this could be nasty here, Moxie.
It could be nasty, but Melon is so close to that Blizzard, and that could be nasty in turn for the dive.
Oh, you gotta kind of split the mines. A few up top, a few down low. Susie going over the top, trying to see if they get the final blow with the finishing beam, but the Immortality Field is there. Rally there for the defense, and Moppy takes down Royals. Melon gonna follow up with a kill onto the Brig, but the defense falls into those mines. It's a 4v4 left here on the objective. Of course, the respawns are going to favor that defense. A Blizzard comes out, doesn't really find much. And the defense spawns coming through to help fortify this point.
Santix is still alive, still trying to pump out healing for the team, but it's just not enough. And Shanghai Wagons will hold on. No tick given up, and a lot invested from the side of Terriers. You can try to run this dive, but it is extremely hard to pull off, especially on point B, and especially with Eagle and Melon. Now both, again, back onto those forms of CC. So yeah, dive going to be swapped off, links back onto that Reinhardt. And this is something you can use to try and close the distance to go for that high ground fight, to just move past the Orisa, move past the Sigma. But you're still lacking that Lucio. You've got the rally, that's a lot of aggression, but it's just not the speed. So you will be taking so much chip damage before you get into this engagement.
Terriers just looking to strong arm this high ground now, but there's also that gravitic flux to worry about, halting right into it. That found a couple members. I think it found both tanks from the attacking team. Susan goes down, holding the duplicate. Disastrous start, trading out with Eagle. And Eagle will take that trade any day of the week. Now both teams dropping down to the objective, looking for position, vying for that advantage. Terriers getting aggressive, trying to put the pressure onto the Orisa, but so far the heal's right there. Eagle's going to throw the Deadeye onto the point, take the Brig down. A lot of the sustain missing, but Lynx answers back from the other side. Moppy finds Royals, though. Oh, and Eagle with a nice shot to help close out this defense.
But Terriers will have a very good shot in this next fight, because you're coming in, you've already got that duplicate pulled out, but you're going to be coming in with a Sigma Flux, with a Shadow. If you are able to get the space needed to pull those off, this could be brutal for Shanghai Wagons to face, because they've only got that one Immortality Field, and it's going to be dedicated to one of those ultimates. If your Terriers play their cards right, cycle these ultimates in the right order, bait the Baptiste first, and then come in with either that duplication or Sigma Flux, this could be how they manage to unlock point B.
It is going to take some discipline, though. Like you said, they've got to cycle those ultimates just right. And I'm anxious to see what they choose to open up with here. All right, pushing up the stairs.
Mommy's looking for that Sigma Flux, but the team is so split right now.
Yeah, Supercharger come out from the defense, but it got annihilated pretty much immediately. Sigma fell down to the bottom. Melon capitalizes on that advantage. 5-1. Defense does lose Joey, and their Orisa missing, but the DPS right there to pick up the slack. Just getting the kills one by one as they come up the stairs.
They may lose a couple of picks, but it's Yorkshire Terriers who have the greater loss right now, build. They lost ultimates. They put in that shatter, they put in that duplication, and Susan's actually off the Echo entirely, going over to the May. Got 1 minute 23 seconds. That feels like it's just a little bit too late. You're going to be trying to build up to a Blizzard. But with the way that Wagons are running, the May's not shutting anyone down that's coming towards them. Rather, you're just putting a wall up to act as that third shield and give a little bit more comfort to Lynx on that Reinhardt to get close. But he doesn't have that shatter now. It's the Sigma that you're trying to set up.
And the split defense, like you said, was so detrimental. It seems like Terriers didn't know how to attack it, and the Blizzard isn't going to be any more effective against the split defense. Noya finds first blood against George once again. The stubborn Terriers pushing up the stairs, strong-arming this thing to the best of their ability, throwing the nano onto the Reinhardt, but they're not finding any ground. They look like they're on the back foot as they're pushing forward and losing members every step of the way.
Susan, 26% to that Blizzard. That is not the ultimate charge you want to see on that DPS right about now, but the swap, we worried, we fretted, it was just a little bit too late, and yep, you're giving up, you're going on to the Widowmaker, so you're going to try and let Terriers just bulldoze their way through main, set the Sigma Flex up with Royals there to capitalize on that Death Blossom, all the while Susan tries to challenge this high ground, tries to challenge Eagle or even Melon. This is the one that you have to worry about right now, so close to that Molten Core.
I think Eagle was so close to getting that right. Yep, Eagle knew it! Eagle, the mind reader, knew exactly where Susan was going, takes him down immediately, follows up the kill onto Syntax. Whirls does strike back, but there's lava all over the point, and nothing Terriers can do to even get close.
52.6% picked up, though, so they did manage to secure one tick. But it was just a little bit too late. That was the most successful fight, the entire part of Point B. And it was a little bit sloppy, honestly. The fact that it took them that long, and they really, I think, struggled on how to deal with what they were running into when those dive counters came through. As soon as Melon swaps onto that Torbjorn, it's a completely different team that we see where they looked so unsure of how to get in. Ultimates were invested when they really perhaps should have been held on to. We talked about they needed to be very restrained on how they cycled through them. It needed to be in the right order, and instead it wasn't an order. They all just came out in one big old mess.
We did not see that discipline we were hoping for at all, Moxie. I'm afraid. But now, hey, I mean, Terriers not, in hot water just yet. This is not a dub for the Shanghai Wagons just yet. They're still going to have to push through this double shield defense and a Reaper and a Torbjorn coming out from the Terriers here to try to hold on Hanamura.
I like this. I like this defense a lot because you have just a little bit more of a bodyguard for Santix to hide behind. Susan on this Torbjorn, if the Anna sticks with the Brig, with the Torb, the father-daughter team, then you should be safe in a lot of these engagements, especially if Melon's actually sticking with this Genji. And that Genji will be coming straight for the backline, but he doesn't want to go for that Anna. She's protected not just by one form of CC, but a lot of Torbjorn turret deterrent for Genjis as well.
My OCD really likes the fact that we're seeing the Shimada brothers in their hometown, but I don't know if Genji's going to be the pick here for the Wagons.
It's going to be so hard. You want to go for that early pick, right? Melon needs to get in, and Eagles has to be the one to open things up. You can see him just trying to poke damage on that window, be a little bit of pressure for Lynx.
Yeah, Lynx looked to be in a little bit of trouble, finally able to get out of there and rejoin his team, and that was the right move. Get aggressive, put the pressure on, 2 picks coming through for the defense.
Oh, but Lynx goes down! And Shanghai Wagons, they seize the moment. They know it's right there. Opportunity to walk into A.
The hubris! Lynx got a couple kills. Thought that, man, the world is, I've got the world in my palm of my hand. Goes out and just gets decimated. And suddenly left the doors wide open for Wagons to push this assault, and they were more than obliged to just step right on through.
Oh, and Santix has been able to build up that nano. Does manage to get Melon out, but it is just Wagons right now occupying this point, and if you're Yorkshire Terriers, you're setting up for that B defense because you do not want to be caught unawares when Wagons only need 52.6% of the point and they're coming in with this blade. It's all going to be decided right now if Terriers are able to deal with this blade or if not, and it's going to be so tough because they're not running that Batiste, and one sleeped up maybe enough to shut Melon down, but that's not going to try and get you that Sigma Flux. There's so much counterplay available for Wagons that's just non-existent right now for Terriers.
And not only those two incredibly potent ultimates, but 5.5 minutes on the clock as this first fight breaks down on point B. It's going to be a monumental task for Yorkshire Terriers to send us to a map 5, as they have to hold off this onslaught. Wagons?
But it does start off right. They're able to get Eagle, which means that Shanghai Wagons are just waiting, allowing Terriers to come onto this high ground, allowing them to get closer and closer to Links of Shadow, which can be the play to immediately bring your hammer down into the ground as soon as Melon goes for that blade.
And Matrix trying to split or take advantage of the split defense. The Nano Boost forced on the Orisa just to keep him alive through that, which means it's not available for the Shatter. The Shatter does find quite a few members of the Wagons, but the Immortality Field right there. Cake had it on cue to keep the team alive, and now the response. Here comes the blade as the Wagons are looking to get hyper aggressive, deflecting the Molten Core, chopping the Tornilor down to size. Melon with a huge 3K here. And the Wagons looking to close this thing out and continue their run into the playoffs. Here it goes, 54% it is. The Shanghai Wagons taking the dub 3-1 over the Yorkshire Terriers.
Shadow was huge. Shadow managed to connect so many into the ground, but there was just no follow-up. And Immortality Field is right there. Immortality
Right
Field
there.
constantly there for Wagons and constantly absent for Terriers. You really do just have to have it. It's the same sort of problem, right? When a team runs a Brig or runs a Zenyatta, you've got to answer back with one of your own. Otherwise, you are just going to be lacking. When it's the Brig, you're going to be lacking that CC. When it's the Zenyatta, you're going to be lacking that extra damage that the Disco Door brings. And when it's the Batiste, you're lacking that massive 25-second cooldown of an Immortality Field, which means all of the ultimates you sink into one fight absolutely obliterated, find absolutely nothing because of that one tiny little disc.
Yeah. And the Nano Boost onto the Orisa as well. I thought that was a bit of a misplay, unfortunately, from the Terriers. You could have used that onto the Rhine to help with that little bit extra damage. Might have been enough to fire strike the Immortality Field and get it out of the way in time to find some value out of that massive Earth Shatter, which indeed, I mean, it was like a 5-person Earth Shatter. Certainly huge, but you hit the nail on the head, Moxie. No follow-up. And the Orisa was just forced to fall back onto the objective. They got almost no value out of that Nano Boost other than the 300 healing. That's what you got out of the Nano Boost in that final fight.
And that's what it was used for. It was honestly used in the place of the Immortality Field. The Orisa was just a little bit out of position, out on her lonesome, and an Orisa is so vulnerable when she is separated from her team. And Wagons knew that. They really wanted to get that main tank out of the way, and that forced the Ana into expanding the Nano, into putting it in to make sure the Orisa survived the encounter and was able to drop from the high ground to the low ground, and it was the domino effect. You just didn't have to give it to your Rhine. If you'd been running that Batiste, you would have been able to throw the Immortality Field down. You would have been able to have an amplification matrix to drop for that Reinhardt and the rest of the team to go for those juicy kills when 5 people are in the ground, but it's just not to be.
Well, Yorkshire Terriers were a lot of fun to watch, and they're not out of this tournament yet, as this is a double elimination bracket, but Shanghai Wagons had them figured out today, as they're going to move on through the winner's side of the bracket with this 3-1 victory in the series. Well, this is
actually a little bit of a callback, because remember that was the exact score.
The exact score.
that these guys had when they faced themselves all the way back in that round 7. Terriers not able to come back with the redemption story today.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but y'all stick around. We've got another game coming at you here in just a few minutes as we're going to head to the rookie division as GitGud playoffs continue here in Season 5.